Please, I just want to come home." Her voice played from my sister's phone, while I was still rinsing soap from the hood. I dropped the hose. Karen lunged, yanked the phone away, forced a laugh. That's just an old message," she said. But my daughter had been missing 9 months. And that voicemail, that voice, was from last week. Worse, Karen had dozens more. Hidden, saved, silenced. I didn't say a word. I just memorized every sound in the background. The gate, the fan, the dog. 20 years of mechanic work had trained me to hear what others miss. She thought that message was lost in the noise, but she just handed me the map, and I wasn't done listening. My name is Mark Kincaid, and I'm 45 years old. Every Sunday morning finds me washing my car in the driveway, a ritual that's survived everything life's thrown at me. My daughter Emily's empty bedroom window watches from above, just as it has for 9 silent months. My sister Karen brings by casseroles and offers to run errands. Her helpfulness is measured as her words when the conversation drifts too close to that night. She never stays to watch me work, though she used to. 20 years of mechanic work taught me to hear what others miss. The slight catch in an engine, the whisper of worn brake pads, the patterns hidden in everyday noise. That training keeps me awake now, listening for what nobody else can hear. Even clean water reveals what families work to hide. I'd been washing my car the same way for 15 years. Circular motions, front to back, letting the soap sit just long enough to lift the grime, but not long enough to spot. Karen lounged in one of the old aluminum folding chairs, the kind that leave grid marks on your legs if you sit too long. She was scrolling through her phone, probably checking those real estate listings she'd gotten obsessed with lately. The morning felt normal enough. Water hissed against chrome, and Mrs. Peterson's retriever was doing his usual Sunday barking routine from 2 doors down. The box fan I'd set up in the garage hummed away, fighting the growing heat. You notice these little sounds more when you've spent months straining to hear a voice that isn't there anymore. "Want some help with the wheels?" Karen asked, not looking up from her screen. Same offer she made every weekend. Same answer I gave. "I've got it." The routine was mine. Emily used to help, though. She'd chase soap bubbles and beg to hold the hose, making rainbows in the spray. Now it was just me, Karen, and the silence between us. I moved to rinse the hood, adjusting the nozzle for a wider spray. The water arced higher than I meant it to, catching a sudden breeze. Karen yelped as drops spattered her legs and her phone. She jumped up, wiping at the screen, but instead of shutting off, it lit up. A mechanical voice announced, playing saved voicemail from. Then I heard it. "Please, I just want to." The words were soft, half buried in static, but I knew that voice, would know it anywhere. Emily. My hands went numb, the hose slipped, water snaking across the concrete while my heart tried to punch through my ribs. Time stretched like hot glass, crystallizing that moment. The fans drone, the dogs bark, my daughter's frightened breath crackling through the phone's speaker. Karen lunged for the device, fumbling to silence it. She forced a laugh that sounded like grinding gears. "Oh gosh, that's just an old message. From before." She waved her hand vaguely, but I caught the tremor in her fingers, saw the way her eyes wouldn't quite meet mine. My brain clicked into diagnostic mode, the way it used to when hunting down engine problems. Document everything, save the evidence, build the case. I locked every detail into memory. The specific whine of that fan, the pattern of the barking, the particular quality of Emily's voice. You don't spend 20 years training your ears without learning how to replay sounds in your head. "Right," I said, keeping my voice level. "Must be." Every instinct screamed to grab the phone, to demand answers. But that wasn't the way. Not yet. You don't confront until you've gathered all the parts you need. The sun climbed higher, beating down on my shoulders while ice formed in my gut. This driveway, my Sunday sanctuary, had just become a crime scene. The soap bubbles drying on my car looked like accusing eyes. Even the familiar weight of the chamois in my pocket felt wrong somehow. Like everything ordinary had shifted 3 degrees off center. Karen made a show of checking the time. I should get going. Got that open house to prepare for. She was already gathering her things, movements just a touch too quick to be casual. 9 months of practiced sympathy, and now I could hear the false notes in every word. I nodded, coiling the hose with mechanical precision while my mind raced ahead. I'd need to test her story today. Find a way to hear that message again. The echo of Emily's voice played on repeat in my head. "Please, I just want to." "Want to what? Come home? See her dad?" The possibilities clawed at my throat. I followed Karen inside, my mind already mapping out the next moves. The kitchen's fluorescent buzz mixed with late afternoon shadows while she filled the kettle. All easy motions and practiced small talk. I leaned against the counter, turning that voicemail over in my head like a faulty part that didn't quite fit. The garage fan's particular whine was still fresh in my memory. That slight wobble in the third blade I'd been meaning to fix. It matched perfectly with what I'd heard in the background of Emily's voice. Perfect pitch isn't just for musicians. Spend enough time with engines, and you learn to read sound like a language. Tea? Karen held up my usual mug, the one Emily had painted, with wobbly blue stripes years ago. Sure. I kept my voice casual. Hey, about that message earlier. How old would you say it was? Her hand paused halfway to the sugar bowl. Oh, Mark, please don't start with this again. She stirred her tea 3 times clockwise, same as always. You know how grief plays tricks on us. Remember last month when you thought you saw her at the grocery store? Just curious about the date stamp. I shrugged, watching her shoulders tighten slightly. Most voicemails get deleted after 30 days, right? I keep some old ones. She pushed my mug across the counter. For memories. Right then, Mrs. Peterson's retriever started up again. That same distinctive bark pattern from this morning. Karen's spoon clinked against porcelain. A tiny tell. But my ears caught it. 9 months of watching her play the supportive sister had taught me her rhythms. This wasn't concern in her movements. It was control slipping. You should rest, Mark. She gathered up her phone, keys jingling against its case. All this, it's not healthy. Dr. Matthews said, you're probably right. I sipped the too hot tea, scalding my tongue but keeping my eyes steady on her face. Just having one of those days, I guess. She headed down the hallway, that loose floorboard creaking under her step. I tracked the sound of her key in the lock, the specific snick of the drawer sliding shut. Third one down in the antique secretary desk. Solid oak, brass handles, grain pattern running diagonal on the front panel. The desk had been our mother's, which meant I knew exactly how those locks worked. The rational part of my brain suggested confronting her right there. Demand answers. Force the truth into the open. But 20 years of diagnostic work had taught me that rushing never solved anything. You had to document every symptom, build your case piece by piece. Evidence first, confrontation later. I pulled out my phone, typing quick notes while everything was fresh. Fan pitch, dog bark timing, drawer location, key sound. Then I copied it all to my cloud drive. Never keep just one version of important data. Karen had already shown she could make things disappear. I wasn't taking chances with my records. The kitchen grew darker while I sat there, my tea going cold beside me. The stove's clock ticked away minutes that felt like hours. Each sound in the house suddenly significant. Karen's footsteps overhead. The hum of the fridge. The distant drone of traffic. Everything felt like it was building towards something I couldn't quite see yet. I needed that drawer open. Needed to see what else she was hiding besides that voicemail. But pushing too soon would just make her more careful. No. This required the same patience I used to use on stubborn engine problems. Wait for the right moment, when the house was quiet and Karen was safely away. My fingers traced the handle of Emily's mug, feeling each bump and dip in the painted surface. Somewhere out there, my daughter was alive, scared, and trying to reach me. That voicemail wasn't just a clue. It was a lifeline, and my own sister had tried to bury it. I checked my watch, 6:47 p.m. Karen would be heading to her book club in a few hours. The house would be empty, and that drawer would be waiting. Until then, I had notes to organize and tools to gather. Ever notice how a house changes after midnight? Every creak becomes a warning. Every shadow holds secrets. I'd spent enough sleepless nights in this place to know its language. Which floorboards would betray me? Which hinges needed oil? Tonight, that knowledge was my ally. I waited in my bedroom until Karen's light clicked off at 11:43. Another hour of listening to her breathing settle into sleep's rhythm through the wall we shared. You don't rush these things. One wrong move, one hurried step, and the whole game changes. At 12:52, I eased my door open, counting breaths. 15 steps to the hallway. I knew each one by heart now. The nightlight we'd installed for Emily years ago still cast its thin glow across the antique secretary desk. Funny how something meant to comfort a child now helped me expose a betrayal. The lock wasn't complicated. Just a simple brass mechanism our mother had trusted for decades. I'd fixed it twice over the years, which meant I knew exactly how much pressure to apply, where to guide the pick. Some skills you never forget, even if you wish you could forget why you're using them. 3 gentle clicks, and the drawer slid open without a sound. Karen's phone lay nestled among neat stacks of envelopes and papers, exactly as she'd left it. My hands didn't shake as I lifted it. Couldn't afford that kind of weakness now. The screen's glow felt too bright in the darkness, but I'd come prepared. Cupping my palm around it like a shield, I navigated to the voicemail folder. What I found turned my stomach cold. Dozens of saved messages, all from numbers I didn't recognize. The timestamps ran back months, not years like she'd claimed. I started with the oldest, keeping the volume just above a whisper. Emily's voice crackled through the speaker. "Please, I just want to go home." That same dog bark in the background. That same mechanical hum I'd heard this morning. Message after message carried fragments of my daughter's fear. Each one a knife twist I couldn't ignore. Working methodically, I connected my portable drive and started copying files. The progress bar crept forward while I photographed the phone's screen, capturing timestamps and numbers. The metadata told its own story. These weren't old recordings playing tricks on a grieving father. These were fresh wounds. Bleeding dates that proved Karen had lied. A cough from upstairs froze my fingers on the screen. I held my breath, counting heartbeats while the transfer finished. The refrigerator's steady drone seemed to grow louder, competing with the nightlight's electronic buzz. Every sound threatened to give me away. Careful as surgery, I returned the phone to its exact position, arranged the envelopes precisely as I'd found them. The lock seated with the same 3 clicks, this time in reverse. Evidence secured in my pocket, I turned toward the hallway's safety. That's when I heard it. The distinct pop of weight on old wood behind me. The house seemed to hold its breath with me, waiting to see what would break first. The silence or my nerve. Pop. Another step. Closer now. You know what's strange about waiting for sunrise? How time seems to stretch like taffy, especially when you're running on coffee and determination. I'd been at the kitchen table since 3 a.m., organizing everything I'd found into something the police couldn't ignore. The thermos beside me was already half empty as I labeled each photo with times and dates. My hands were steady. They had to be. This wasn't about revenge or wild accusations. This was about Emily, about facts that could bring her home. Have you ever tried to describe a sound on paper? It's like trying to paint wind. But I'd spent 20 years diagnosing engines by ear, so I knew how to break down audio patterns. In my report, I detailed everything. The recurring dog bark's specific pitch and timing. The mechanical hum's steady frequency. How Emily's voice echoed differently in each recording, suggesting she'd been moved between rooms. Dawn was just starting to gray the kitchen windows when I heard Karen's alarm chirp upstairs. I double-checked my work one last time. The portable drive secured in a sealed envelope. Photos arranged chronologically. Detailed notes on every background sound that could help locate Emily. Nothing accusatory, nothing emotional. Just evidence that demanded attention. The stairs creaked under Karen's steps. I kept writing, shoulder muscles tensing as she entered the kitchen. Her reflection in the window showed her patting her pockets, that little frown forming when she couldn't find the drawer key. "Morning," she said, voice carefully bright. "You're up early." Her eyes flickered to my papers before settling on the coffee pot. "Want some breakfast?" I could make those waffles Emily always loved. The casual mention of my daughter's name made my jaw clench, but I kept my tone neutral. "Thanks, but I've got an appointment." I gathered the documents into my folder. Movements deliberate and unhurried. Probably be out most of the morning. "Oh?" She poured coffee with steady hands, but I caught how her knuckles whitened around the mug. "Anything important?" "Just some paperwork that needs handling." The partial truth felt bitter on my tongue, but I'd learned from her how to hide behind pleasant smiles. I stood, tucking the folder under my arm. Karen followed me to the door, lingering in the frame as I backed out of the driveway. Through the rearview mirror, I watched her watching me, her figure getting smaller but never moving from that doorway. The morning traffic was light, each red light giving me time to breathe. Emily's voice played in my head, syncing with the turn signal's rhythm. "Please, I just want to go home." Click. "Please, I just want to go home." Click. I'd dealt with the police before, mostly routine stuff from the shop. I knew there'd be forms to fill out, statements to sign, maybe some skeptical questions to answer. What I didn't expect was having to prove my own daughter's voice to them. The station looked exactly like it had 9 months ago, when I'd first reported Emily missing. All concrete and tinted glass, trying to look both official and approachable. The automatic doors slid open with a blast of air-conditioned chill, and fluorescent lights made everything feel slightly unreal. At the front desk, a receptionist glanced up from her computer, then down at the evidence bag in my hands. Her expression shifted from professional politeness to something more guarded. "Can I help you?" Yes, I said, setting my folder on the counter. I need to speak with someone about new evidence in my daughter's case. Emily Kincaid. She picked up her phone, pressed 3 numbers, and spoke quietly into the receiver. I caught fragments. Gentleman with evidence? Emily Kincaid case? Yes, that one. While she talked, I straightened my folder's edges. Checked the seals on my envelopes one more time. The sound of footsteps echoing down the hallway made me look up. They were unhurried, measured steps, the kind that either brought answers or created more questions. Detective Morris wasn't what I'd expected. No world-weary expression, no coffee-stained tie, just a crisp uniform, and the kind of clean-cut efficiency that made me wonder if he'd ever had to search for anyone he loved. I laid everything out on his desk in neat rows. The drive with the copied voicemails, timestamp photos of Karen's phone screen, and a single page summarizing the key points. Each item made a small sound against the metal desk that reminded me of tools being lined up before a difficult repair. "Mr. Kincaid," he said, flipping through my summary with the enthusiasm of someone checking their mail. "I understand you're convinced these recordings are recent." They are recent. I kept my voice steady, the way I used to when explaining complex repairs to skeptical customers. "The timestamps prove it. And listen to the background sounds. They're consistent across multiple files. That mechanical hum, the dog barking." He held up a hand. "Anonymous voicemails are easily faked these days. There's software that can splice audio, layer sounds." He shrugged, as if dismissing a minor complaint about a parking ticket, without being able to verify the source. "Then, verify it," I said, tapping the page where I'd noted the sound patterns. "That bark happens at regular intervals. The hum maintains the same frequency. These aren't random background noises, they're location markers. All you need to do is check." "Mr. Kincaid." His tone shifted to what I recognized as practiced sympathy. "We're dealing with a heavy caseload right now. Your sister has been nothing but cooperative throughout this investigation. She's stood by you, helped organize searches." He slid my folder back across the desk. "Have you considered grief counseling? There's a support group that meets." My jaw clenched so tight I could hear my teeth creak. "I'd like to speak with your supervisor." The supervisor, a Lieutenant Wheeler, arrived 15 minutes later with the same polished concern and almost identical phrasing. "Doctored audio, heavy caseload, your sister's cooperation." It was like they were reading from a script designed to make me doubt everything I knew. "That's my daughter's voice," I said, fighting to keep the desperation out of my words. "I would know it anywhere." "Grief can make us hear what we want to hear," Wheeler replied. And somehow that gentle tone hurt worse than if he'd just called me crazy outright. I left with my evidence bag still full, walking down a hallway that seemed to stretch forever. Each step felt heavier than the last, like I was wading through concrete that was slowly setting around my feet. The morning sun hit me like an accusation when I pushed through the front doors. My phone vibrated. A text from Karen. "Remember to be patient with yourself. Some days are harder than others. Love you, big brother." The message should have been comforting. Should have been exactly what a caring sister would send. Instead, it made my hands shake as I saved it to my growing file of things that didn't add up. I'd spent 9 months being patient, being understanding, accepting everyone's explanations. But standing there in that parking lot, watching people come and go like nothing was wrong in their world, I finally understood the worst truth. The system wasn't just failing to help me, it was actively working against me. Every reasonable explanation, every sympathetic dismissal, every reminder of Karen's supposed support, they were all walls being built between me and my daughter. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Karen. "Thought I'd make your favorite for dinner tonight. We can talk if you want." I saved that one too, along with the sting of betrayal, the weight of disbelief, and every other scrap of evidence that the world was trying to make me ignore, because that's what they didn't understand. Every time they dismissed me, they just made me more certain. The drive home felt like crossing into enemy territory. Mrs. Peterson, who'd brought me casseroles every week since Emily disappeared, turned her back when I pulled into my driveway. Her curtains twitched shut as I walked to my front door. My phone had been lighting up with group chat notifications for months. Neighbors coordinating search parties, sharing leads, offering support. Now it sat silent in my pocket, heavy as a stone. I scrolled through the last few messages, taking a break from all this. Maybe we should focus on healing. Karen's right. We need to be rational. Karen. My sister's name felt bitter on my tongue now. Every few hours, she'd send another carefully worded text. "Found this great grief counselor. Very experienced with similar cases." Or, "Dr. Matthews has a support group. Tuesday nights. Always CC'd to our mutual friends. building her paper trail of concern while undermining everything I knew to be true. The next morning, my manager Dave called me into his office. 20 years I'd worked there. Never a complaint, never a problem. Now he couldn't quite meet my eyes as he pushed a write-up across his desk. "Mark, we need to discuss some concerns about erratic behavior," he said, fiddling with his pen. "There have been reports of unfounded accusations, disturbing comments." "Dave, you know me," I said, keeping my voice level despite the heat rising in my chest. "When have I ever been anything but professional?" He glanced at his computer screen, probably reading from some HR script. "You've been distracted, taking long lunches for investigations, making other employees uncomfortable with conspiracy theories. They're not theories." The words came out sharper than I intended. "I have evidence, Mark." He held up a hand. "We've been patient, given the circumstances. But this needs to stop. Next time will be disciplinary action." I signed the write-up. What choice did I have? Emily's room didn't pay for itself, and her medical insurance came through my job. I couldn't afford principals right now. Lunch in the break room felt like sitting in a bubble of silence. Conversations died when I walked in, started up again when I left. Mike, who'd helped me rebuild my engine last summer, suddenly remembered urgent work at his desk. Sarah, who'd watched Emily grow up through a decade of Christmas parties, couldn't seem to find her reading glasses whenever I tried to show her the voicemail timestamps. The copied files sat in my pocket like burning coal. Every time my phone buzzed with another of Karen's supportive messages, I wanted to throw them all in people's faces. But what good would it do? They'd already decided which version of reality they preferred. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table pushing dry meatloaf around my plate. The house felt like it was shrinking, walls creeping closer with each tick of the clock. 9 months ago, this space had been filled with Emily's laughter, her homework spread across the table, her stories about school. Now it echoed with absence and doubt. I pulled out a notepad and wrote, "Proof I can show without them," at the top. The list was depressingly short. None of it enough to convince people who'd already chosen not to believe me. My hands shook as I set down the pen. The familiar walk to Emily's room felt longer tonight. Nothing had changed. Same butterfly posters on the walls, same stuffed bear on the bed, same geometry textbook forever open to chapter 6. I sank down in the doorway, letting the silence wrap around me like a lead blanket. 9 months of searching alone. 9 months of telling myself I could handle it, I could figure it out, I could make them understand. But sitting there, watching shadows creep across my daughter's empty room, I finally admitted what I'd been fighting all day. I couldn't survive this alone anymore. Not with everyone turned against me. Not with Karen's web drawing tighter every hour. Not with my job hanging by a thread and my credibility in tatters. I needed help. Real help. Someone who would listen without that practiced sympathy. Someone who knew how to read between the lines of concerned family members and helpful authorities. But who was left to trust? You ever notice how giving up comes in waves? It's not one clean break. It's more like watching rust eat through steel, piece by piece, until the whole thing's ready to crumble. That's where I was that night, sitting at my kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee and a calendar that might as well have been written in Sanskrit. Emily's butterfly posters on the wall, the ones she'd begged me to hang perfectly straight, Dad. They didn't feel like guardians anymore. Just paper, just ink, just another reminder of everything slipping through my fingers. The geometry textbook still open to chapter 6, waiting for her to finish that homework she never got to. Christ, even that felt more like a museum piece than part of our life. My phone sat there like a brick, Karen's number pulled up and waiting. I'd spent an hour drafting and redrafting what I was going to say. "You were right. I've been seeing things that weren't there. The stress has been getting to me. I'm ready to accept what I can't prove." Each version tasted more bitter than the last, but what choice did I have? The whole world had decided I was crazy. Maybe they were right. You know that moment when you're about to do something you can't take back? Your fingers hovering over the button, your breath's caught in your throat, and everything goes kind of quiet and sharp at the same time. That's where I was when my phone buzzed. The name that popped up knocked me sideways. Tom Marshall. Haven't heard from him since Emily's 5th birthday party. Back when he was still on the force. Good detective, better friend, until life and careers pulled us different ways. Now here he was, calling out of the blue on the exact night I was ready to throw in the towel. "Mark," he said, voice exactly like I remembered. Gravel and coffee and no BS. "Been hearing things about your situation. Thought you might need someone to listen without an agenda." My throat closed up for a second. After months of practiced sympathy and careful dismissals, the simple offer hit like a punch to the chest. "Tom, I I had to clear my throat. It's complicated. Usually is. He paused. Look, I'm at Denny's on Madison. Been here since my wife kicked me out for snoring. Could use some company and got nothing but time. Your call. 20 minutes later, I slid into a booth across from him. The fluorescent lights made everything look tired. The laminated menus, the coffee-stained mugs, Tom's face with its new wrinkles. He didn't say anything, just pushed a cup of coffee my way and waited. I pulled out my phone, queued up the first voicemail. Just, listen, I said. That's all I'm asking. He nodded, closed his eyes. I played 3 messages back to back. The fan hum. Emily's voice. The dog bark. Tom's expression never changed, but his fingers tapped slightly with each new sound. An old habit from his detective days, keeping time with evidence. After the 3rd message, he held up a hand. Play the 2nd one again, right after the dog barks. I did. The bark echoed through the tiny speaker. There, Tom said. You hear it? Like metal on metal real quick? I rewound. Listened closer. Behind the bark, almost lost in the static, a rattling sound, sharp and distinctive. How had I missed that? That's a security gate chain, Tom said, leaning forward. Heavy gauge. Probably 8 feet high minimum. And that particular click when it catches. His eyes had that focused look I remembered from old cases. Only one place in town uses that setup. Industrial Park off Route 9. Those storage units behind the old factory. Owners paranoid about theft. Put in custom locks that make that exact sound. My hands started shaking. All these months looking at timestamps and background noise, and I'd missed something this basic, this concrete. And Mark? Tom's voice went quieter. You know who owns 3 of those units through their business? Your sister's partner, James Wheeler. The hope that sparked in my chest was dangerous, thin and sharp as a razor blade. But it was real. For the first time in months, I had something solid to grab onto. Tell me more about those units, I said. Tom's laptop whirred to life, the screen's glow competing with the diner's fluorescence. I watched his fingers dance across the keyboard, pulling up old case files he'd apparently never deleted. The waitress topped off our coffees without a word. Guess she'd seen enough late-night conspiracies in this place to know when to stay quiet. Listen to this, Tom said, turning the laptop so I could see. Security check from 3 years back, Wheeler storage units. He hit play, and a dog barked through the speakers. The same bark. The same metallic rattle following it. My coffee cup froze halfway to my mouth. Play it again. He did. 3 more times. Each playback matched the voicemail's background noise perfectly. Not just similar, but identical. The kind of match that would hold up in court if we could get there. Same guard dog, Tom explained, pulling up a satellite view of the industrial park. Same chain reaction when the gate closes. And look at the timestamps on your voicemails. They're all between 7 p.m. and 5 a.m. Night security's tightest then. You ever have one of those moments where shock feels like ice water in your veins? That's what hit me as Tom started connecting dots I hadn't even seen. This wasn't just a wild theory anymore. This was real. This was findable. Wheeler owns units 17, 18, and 19 through the business. Tom continued, switching to property records. But here's where it gets interesting. He pointed to a highlighted section. Your sister's name shows up on the insurance papers as a secondary beneficiary, and both their signatures appear on this trust document from last year. I leaned closer, scanning dates and dollar amounts. What kind of trust? The kind that only pays out under specific conditions. Tom's voice had that careful tone detectives use when they're laying out evidence. Like if certain parties are unavailable to contest it. Remember that ice in my veins? It turned to steel. Show me more. The next hour was a crash course in following paper trails. Karen and Wheeler had more connections than I'd ever imagined. Joint ventures, shared accounts, and a maze of legal documents all pointing toward one thing. Money. Big money. The kind people do desperate things for. Then Tom found the email. It was buried in Wheeler's cloud backup. Guess he wasn't as careful as he thought. A travel agent confirming arrangements, talking about secure transport and documentation requirements. The line that stopped my heart. All parties must be ready for international departure within weeks. Within weeks. The words hung there like a noose. Tom closed the laptop slowly. We don't have much time. What's our play? I asked, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. He stirred his cold coffee, thinking. Direct confrontation's out. They've already got the community thinking you're unstable. We need them to show their hand. He paused. What if we gave them something too tempting to ignore? Like what? Like a rumor about family money. Big money. The kind worth changing plans for. Tom leaned forward. You casually mentioned to Karen that you're about to move some inherited funds, something that would mess with their timing. Then we watched their accounts like hawks. The plan started taking shape between us. No accusations, no confrontations, just careful words dropped like breadcrumbs, leading them right where we wanted them. I checked my watch. 3:47 a.m. The diner's neon sign buzzed outside, painting everything in tired shades of red and blue. We had maybe 3 hours before the world woke up and starting moving again. I'll draft the exact wording now, I said, pulling out my notebook. Every word would have to be perfect. Casual enough to seem natural, specific enough to trigger action. How fast can you set up the monitoring? Give me till noon, Tom replied, already typing on his phone. And Mark? Get some sleep first. You'll need your head clear for this. But sleep wasn't happening. Not with within weeks echoing in my brain. Not with Emily's voice still playing through those voicemails. I spent the pre-dawn hours at my kitchen table, writing and rewriting the bait we'd dangle. The sun was just starting to pale the sky when I finally had it right. My hands were steady as I dialed Karen's number that morning. Steadier than they had any right to be. Funny how calm you can get when everything's on the line. The phone rang 3 times before she picked up. Hey, stranger, she answered, warm as fresh coffee. Everything okay? Actually, yeah. I kept my voice casual, like this was just another Tuesday call. Been sorting through some paperwork Dad left behind. Found something interesting about the family trust. A tiny pause. Most folks wouldn't catch it, but I'd been listening for details like that for 9 months straight. Oh? What kind of interesting? Looks like there's a secondary account we never knew about. Pretty substantial. I shuffled some papers near the phone so she'd hear it. I'm thinking of consolidating everything by Friday. Moving it somewhere more secure. Remember how I said there was a pause before? This one was longer. That seems sudden. Are you sure you want to make big financial decisions right now? Already talked to the bank. I dropped in the hook Tom and I had crafted. They're helping me dissolve the old trust structure. All the passwords and access codes change end of week. You know that feeling when you're working on an engine and you hit exactly the right bolt? That's how her next words felt. Maybe we should talk about this in person. Let me help you think it through. Sure, if you've got time. I made myself sound distracted, like this wasn't the most important conversation of my life. I'm free this afternoon. Perfect. That little coffee shop on Mason? Say, 2 o'clock? I agreed and hung up, then texted Tom. Fish is nibbling. The next 4 hours crawled by like molasses in January. I kept my phone close, jumping every time it buzzed. Tom was monitoring everything he legally could. Public records, company registrations, any financial moves they made that would show up on radar. At 1:15, the first text came through. Dormant LLC just renewed its registration. Wheeler's signature. I replied with a single thumbs up and kept getting ready. Every move had to look natural now. I changed my shirt twice, making sure I looked exactly as put together or frazzled as Karen would expect. The coffee shop was one of those places that tries too hard to be cozy. All reclaimed wood and Edison bulbs. Karen was already there when I walked in, 2 cups on the table. Just like old times. Except nothing was like old times anymore. I got your usual, she said, sliding a mug toward me. Her smile was picture perfect. Practiced. Too practiced. Thanks. I took a sip and let her drive the conversation. Tom had been clear about that. Don't volunteer anything new, don't repeat anything old. Just let her fish. And fish she did, but carefully. So tell me more about this trust situation. It must be overwhelming, dealing with all that paperwork alone. I shrugged. Bank's handling most of it. Just need my signature by Friday. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, tried to hide a frown. You know, I might know someone who could help review everything. Make sure you're not missing anything important. Appreciate that. I checked my watch. But I should probably get going. Early meeting tomorrow. Already? Something flickered behind her eyes. Frustration maybe, or worry. We've barely talked about the details. Not much to tell. I stood up, leaving half my coffee untouched. Thanks for listening, though. The parking lot was starting to fill with afternoon shadows when my phone lit up. Tom's message made my heart skip. Wheeler just tried moving $500K offshore. Bank flagged it as suspicious. They're spooked. I got in my car and sat there, hands gripping the wheel. 9 months of not knowing, of playing it careful and quiet. And now everything was moving at light speed. The bait wasn't just nibbled. They'd swallowed it whole. Tom's next text confirmed it. 3 more accounts showing activity. All linked to that same LLC. Want to guess where they're trying to send the money? I didn't have to guess. The same country mentioned in that travel agent's email about secure transport. Everything was lining up exactly like we'd hoped, exactly like we'd planned. I drummed my fingers on the steering wheel, watching Tom's texts roll in. Each one felt like another piece clicking into place. Forwarding everything to Sanders at Financial Crimes. The transfer pattern matches exactly what we need. My hands were steady as I typed back, "What else do you need from me? Send that formal statement we drafted. All the dates, times, and the property connection. Keep it straight facts. No accusations, no theories." I pulled up the document we'd prepared. 3 pages of nothing but verified details. Voicemail timestamps, background sound analysis, property records linking Wheeler's address to that distinctive dog bark. At the bottom, I added today's attempted transfer and that within weeks timeline from the travel email. "Sending now," I texted Tom. "What's our window look like?" Sanders is cross-referencing everything. Says the pattern's solid enough for action. Just stay clear and let the process work. My phone buzzed with a message from Karen. For a second my throat tightened. Had she somehow caught wind? But no, it was just, "Rain check on dinner tonight? Work's crazy. Tomorrow instead?" I remembered what Tom said about keeping everything normal. "Sure," I wrote back. "Might be late anyway. Next time." The afternoon sun slid lower, painting the strip mall parking lot in long shadows. I watched unmarked vehicles drift past at regular intervals, trying not to count them. Tom had been clear. "Stay away from the property. Don't risk compromising anything. Let the professionals work. Units coordinating now," Tom texted. "Everything's quiet. That's good." I killed the engine but kept the key in just in case. The parking lot started emptying as businesses closed. A few streetlights flickered on. My coffee from earlier sat cold and forgotten in the cup holder. Remember those days in the shop when you'd finish a complex repair, but couldn't test it until everything was buttoned up? That same tension filled the car now. Every minute felt like an hour. "Still clear," Tom updated. "No sirens. Working it silent." I flipped my phone face down on the passenger seat. Couldn't stop checking it otherwise. The radio murmured something about traffic and weather, but I barely heard it. In my mind, I kept seeing Emily's face, hearing her voice in those recordings. The sky deepened to twilight blue. More unmarked cars glided past. I recognized the patterns now. Coordinated movements, professional patience. They were building something careful and precise. Tom's next message was just 3 words. "Units on site." I watched the second hand on my dash clock tick forward. Each click felt like it carried Emily's name. The radio stayed quiet. No alerts, no sirens. Just the soft hum of evening traffic and my own heartbeat in my ears. A memory hit me then. Emily at 3 years old, learning to work a wrench. Her tiny hands wrapped around the metal, face scrunched in concentration. "Like this, Daddy?" she'd asked, so determined to get it right. "Just like that, baby," I'd said. Nice and steady. Now I sat alone in a cooling car, whispering those same words. "Nice and steady, Emily. Nice and steady." The phone lit up with Tom's message. "They're moving in." I reached for the key. Caught myself. Pulled back. Trust the process. Let them work. Everything we'd built could crumble if I rushed in now. Another text. "Teams are on property. Stand by." The second hand kept ticking. I kept breathing. Somewhere in the growing dark, years of patience were finally paying off. I just had to hold on a little longer. My phone buzzed again. Tom's message hit like a thunderbolt. "Scene secure. They found her. She's alive." I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. The next text came quick. "Come now. Officers will meet you at the perimeter." The drive felt both endless and instant. I barely registered the turns, operating on pure muscle memory while my heart tried to hammer its way out of my chest. Blue and red lights painted the neighborhood in silent pulses. They'd kept the sirens off, just like Tom said. An officer waved me to a designated spot, checking my ID against their list. The whole operation moved with this careful precision, like a well-oiled machine. I recognized Tom's style in the details. "Mr. Kincaid?" A female detective approached, badge catching the floodlights. "I'm Detective Martinez. We're going to walk you in slowly, all right? She's safe, but needs everyone to stay calm." I nodded, not trusting my voice. Following her lead, we moved past clusters of officers, documenting everything. The property looked smaller than I'd imagined. A modest ranch-style house with that tall privacy fence Tom had spotted in the background of his sound analysis. The dog, a German shepherd, barked from its kennel exactly like in the recordings. Same pitch, same cadence. The sound hit my ears like confirmation of every horrible suspicion I'd carried. Inside, the house hummed with controlled activity. Evidence markers dotted surfaces while teams photographed and cataloged, but I barely registered any of it because there, from a back room, came that steady fan noise I'd memorized from the voicemails. Martinez guided me around a corner, and the world narrowed to a single point of focus. Emily sat wrapped in a blanket, a paramedic checking her vitals while she sipped from a water bottle. 9 months of not knowing if she was alive crashed into this moment of absolute certainty. Her eyes found mine. "Dad?" That voice, clear now, without static or background noise, broke something loose in my chest. I moved forward slowly, fighting the urge to rush, keeping my movement steady for her sake. "I'm here, sweetheart." My voice came out rougher than I meant it to. "I'm right here." She reached for me, and I gathered her close, feeling her shoulders shake. The paramedic gave us space but stayed nearby. I could feel Emily's heart racing against my chest, matching my own thundering pulse. "You found me," she whispered. "Always would," I managed. "Always will." A commotion from the front drew attention. Through the doorway, I caught glimpses of Karen being led out in handcuffs, her business partner Wheeler following minutes later in separate custody. Camera flashes sparked from the perimeter where news vans had started gathering. Martinez touched my shoulder. "Mr. Kincaid, we need to move you both out through the back. Media's getting heavy up front." I kept Emily tucked against my side as we navigated through the house. Evidence boxes filled quickly. Financial records, travel documents, what looked like forged paperwork. Every surface told another piece of the story we'd pieced together. The night air hit cool and clean compared to the stuffed house. Emily's grip tightened when reporters shouted questions from beyond the police line. I angled my body to shield her, focusing on basics. "You warm enough?" I asked softly. "Need more water?" She nodded to both, and Martinez quickly produced another blanket and bottle. We settled into a quiet area near the command vehicles, away from the chaos. Floodlights carved harsh shadows across the parking lot while teams continued their work. The lead investigator approached with Tom beside him. "Mr. Kincaid, we're moving fast now. Got enough here for multiple charges: fraud, kidnapping, conspiracy. They won't walk away from this." I barely heard him. Emily had dozed against my shoulder, exhaustion finally winning out. The paramedic assured me it was normal. Her vitals were good. She just needed rest. Real rest. For the first time in 9 months. Tom caught my eye and gave a small nod. No words needed. We'd done it. We'd brought her home. The charges hit them like a tsunami. Karen and Wheeler's assets froze faster than winter puddles. Bank accounts, property holdings, even their fancy cars. You should have seen their faces when the forensic accountants started pulling threads on their little scheme. Every rock they turned over revealed another layer of fraud. "Multiple counts of conspiracy," the DA told me over coffee one morning. "Financial fraud, kidnapping, endangerment of a minor. The list keeps growing." He shuffled through papers, each one detailing another charge. "They're looking at serious time, Mr. Kincaid. And their assets? Gone. All of it's getting seized or tied up in litigation for years. Funny how quick a town can turn. One day, Karen was the caring sister who'd supported her grieving brother, and Wheeler was the respected businessman. The next, their names might as well have been poison. The local paper ran a 3-part exposé on their scheme: inheritance manipulation, custody fraud, planned transport overseas. Each revelation made people recoil harder than the last. Wheeler's office shut down within a week. The closed indefinitely sign went up without ceremony. His clients scattered like leaves in a storm, desperate to distance themselves. Karen's social circle vanished. Those same friends who doubted me now couldn't delete her fast enough from their phones. But I didn't waste energy watching their fall. Emily needed steady ground beneath her feet, not updates on revenge. We found a counselor who specialized in trauma recovery. For both of us, those first sessions weren't easy, but they were necessary. Like rebuilding an engine, you can't skip steps and expect it to run right. Control isn't always the answer, Dr. Roberts told me during one session. Sometimes patience means letting things heal at their own pace. She was right. I'd spent 9 months trying to control an impossible situation. Now I needed to learn a different kind of strength. The kind that comes from stepping back, listening more, pushing less. Emily's room got a new lock. Her choice, her key. The kitchen stayed quiet except when she felt like filling it with noise. Small steps, but real ones. Each day brought another tiny piece of normal back into focus. Remember when I mentioned that Sunday morning ritual with the car? Well, this morning, Emily asked if she could help. Just like that, casual as anything. I tried not to make too big a deal of it, but my heart nearly burst. You should see us now. The driveway's warm under our feet, sun hanging bright in a clear sky. I'm showing her how to mix the soap just right. Not too much, not too little. That garage fan's humming away, but it's our choice to have it on. Even that neighbor's dog is barking, and Emily doesn't flinch anymore. You're missing a spot, she tells me, flicking water my direction. The laugh that follows sounds real, unguarded. Oh yeah? I send a gentle spray her way, and she ducks behind the car, giggling. The water catches sunlight as it arcs between us, breaking into rainbow fragments. Nothing hidden in it now. No secrets in the spray. Just father and daughter on a warm weekend morning, making the chrome shine. Karen's name has become a cautionary tale around here. Folks mention her like you'd mention a storm that nearly took your roof, with a shake of the head and gratitude for surviving it. Wheeler's reputation? In tatters. Last I heard, he's trying to cut a deal, but the DA isn't feeling generous. I watch Emily attack a particularly stubborn bug splatter on the windshield, her tongue stuck out in concentration. The tightness that lived in my chest for 9 months finally releases its grip. The hose creates patterns on concrete, simple and clean. Water beads roll down glass like tiny clear marbles. Looking at her now, focused on her task, I can't help but think, betrayal sharpens a man more than it breaks him. You learn who you are when everything you believed gets tested, and sometimes you come out stronger on the other side.